First of all, members, this is my first time serving on the State Government Finance Committee, and I have to tell you it's been a very interesting experience. You know, I knew it had oversight for state government operations, but everything that we've heard about that could hurt the middle class is in this bill. With few things we have are workforce reduction, salary freezes, elimination of deputy assistant commissioner positions, outsourcing, zero-based budgeting, and an audit of state employees' health insurance dependents. It's one reckless thing after another. But what this amendment specifically addresses is when we talk about the two parts of the bill where we're counting revenue that the Department of Revenue has not authorized as a savings through a fiscal note. The first is a federal debt offset provision we're talking about. These are both Representative Peppin provisions. The Department of Revenue estimates this bill can only raise about $4.3 million. So there is this $32 million difference we're talking about. And you know, I know that for the first time in a long time we have Republicans that are controlling both the House and the Senate, but we've never counted savings like this before. This is the first time we've done that. My experience in legislature has always been we don't book savings. That was something we couldn't hang our hat on for fiscal notes. The second proposal, which we've been talking about, is this for the tax analytics proposal. We know that the Department of Revenue has not done a fiscal note for that because, as we talked about, they don't book fiscal notes and book money on RFPs. So it's a zero. And even though you've put that it costs $34 million, that still leaves $99 million in revenue that's being counted, but we have no verification. So Representative Peppin, I'm going to talk a little more about this, but I hope you'll talk about where your numbers come from. You said you were going to do that on third reading. We're eager to hear how $99 million is going to come in from tax compliance. You know, we've had testimony members from the Department of Revenue. They do a good job with tax compliance. We even had Republicans on the other side complaining about their friends that had been audited and that they thought that they were overly aggressive. We heard that in committee. Yet here we have an initiative that's going to actually raise another $99 million in revenue through tax compliance initiatives. It just doesn't make sense. It's not consistent with what you've been talking about. It's phony, it's fake, and it's dishonest math. And then to top all of this off, we know that the Commissioner of Revenue is to notify the Commissioner of MMB if the revenue does not meet its projections. And then the Commissioner is required to reduce the general fund appropriations to executive agencies' operations by the unmet revenue amount. This is on page 52 and 53 of the bill. But members, we've talked about this. It's our job to make the budget decisions, not the Revenue Commissioner. They're appointed by the governor. They're a member of his executive branch. We have learned from day one that we were elected to do this. When we're going to go down to the legislature and we're going to change that budget and we're going to make things different and we're going to do the best for our state. Because you know what? We're the ones in charge of the state budget. We're the ones that make the calls on the state budget. But here you have the Department of Revenue that's going to make those decisions. So in this amendment, it makes it so that the Commissioner of Management and Budget shall notify the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the President of the Senate of the expected deficiency and shall propose to the legislature increases in revenue or decreases in appropriations to eliminate the deficiency. The proposals do not take effect unless enacted by law. So simply, this amendment changes it so the legislature is in charge. There is a few pieces of evidence, members, that back up this idea of the legislature making the decisions. First of all is a letter from Governor Dayton. Governor Dayton issued a letter in response to House File 130 on February 10, 2011, and in it he talked about his veto and why he made it. And he said that that bill makes inaccurate and undocumented assumptions about the amount not yet encumbered for this fiscal year. You have not fulfilled your oversight responsibility to determine the purposes for which the unencumbered amounts are intended to be spent. And Governor Dayton goes on to say, instead, you would abdicate your responsibility, this is to the legislature, you would abdicate your responsibility to make those difficult spending choices and your power to determine those cuts to an appointed official of the executive department. That is both inappropriate and unconstitutional. So a letter from Governor Dayton talking about inappropriate, unconstitutional to ask a member of the executive department to be making decisions like that. We also have the unallotment decision. We all remember what happened with that one. That was when Governor Pawlenty decided that he was going to make the unallotments and he was going to make the final budget, and we know that that one went to court. In the court decision, as part of that, we have a quote that separation of powers is a core feature of our governmental structure, included in our state constitution based on the model of the United States Constitution. The principle originates from the concern that, quote, that if all power were concentrated in one branch of government, tyranny would be the natural and probable result. Wolf versus Tax Court of Appeals. So tyranny would be the natural result of that. Those are two pieces that back up what is wrong with this provision and how it is done. So members, I hope that you will vote for this amendment. It goes on to say that it is our job, that it is the legislature's job if these revenue proposals fall short. You know, in putting this bill together, I was talking with some of the staff on this whole idea of booking savings, and again, we just haven't done this. So first we have savings that we don't know if we're going to come in. Next, we ask the commissioner to make decisions. And third, you know what? How does the legislature even figure into that? I ask you for your support of this, members. And Representative Peppin, I hope you'll talk about where your figures come from. And I think it's very important that the legislature is making the decisions on the budget, not the commissioners.